Hey there, this is Bonnie, and without further ado, I'm finally getting to my May favorites, May roundup kind of stuff. I just felt like the last video that I just posted was a little more important to get out there. How I'm, grounding myself and really committing myself to anti racist work. More on that one. I'm gonna talk about my efforts on how I've been, like what I've been doing, probably when I do my June roundup, just because it's still evolving and there's a lot that I'm doing right now, and I'd like to reveal that when I do my June favorites and my June video. But for May was a lot of planting seeds. So May was a month of reflection. It's been pretty slow at the day job, and because we're still, like, my company, we are still all working remote, probably until further notice, and I'm hoping that I could stay working remote until for and kind of make this more of a permanent kind of shift, just because I have a very long commute into Manhattan from where I live, and I don't need to be at it. My team isn't even co-located with me, so I'm just like, hey, I'd like to work from home. And I realize, like, because I do work from home and because it is a little slow, why not take advantage and work on both personal and professional growth? So I've been learning about new skills, and I came up with this system called a personal curriculum, where I would kind of treat my days, like look at my schedule, see what meetings I have, see what I've got going on, and create units of study for myself. So one area that I'm working on, that I'm concentrating on, is career counseling, because as somebody who works in the field of HR, I've always been passionate about career counseling, and I was a career advisor at a college before. So that's like one area that I've been kind of doing some coursework, so to speak. I've also been taking a lot of online courses through my company, so that's been very useful, like learning about new recruiting techniques and other kinds of stuff there, learning about the world of product management and project management, and some other cool stuff, design thinking. Another unit of study has been, my studies toward anti-racist work. That was like, I actually did write in, like, a unit for cultural studies. So I was watching, like, in May, I was doing a lot of, like, movies, and a lot of, like coming up with, like, what literature I wanted to read. I was coming up with a plan to read for the month of June queer artists and stuff for Pride Month. So I was, like, really thinking about, like, how can I do this personal and professional growth kind of thing, as well as tarot studies. So, like, whole plan in addition to my day job. So, like, trying to keep my mind occupied rather than just sitting in front of my work computer going, like, nothing's going on. Okay, I just have to sit in front of my computer and I can't go anywhere. So it's a lot of personal and professional growth there. Other things that I have been doing, um, I have been really loving Animal Crossing. That's been my, like, happy place lately. So Animal Crossing has been tons of fun. Um, yeah, and I get very invested in it. It's fun. And it's crazy because at my day job, there's a whole Slack channel dedicated to Animal Crossing. Like, people are hardcore about that stuff. It's crazy. So that's like the light and fluffy fun stuff. But I want to get into the decks because I like my decks, and I've been buying more decks. My binging for, like, my tarot binging during quarantine has been, like, insane. But also, I've changed my perspective a lot on the types of decks that I'm gravitating to. My style is evolving, and also I've been expanding my perception of what my shadows are, and it's definitely, like, an eye opener. But I'm gonna go into the decks I worked with in May and what my perception was, and yeah. So the first week of May, I worked with the Spolia. This is a massive, massive deck. I did a video on this, but it is quite a chunky deck. And for my small hands to get around it, I have to kind of do two piles sometimes because it is a little bit chunky. But it's a gorgeous, 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 gorgeous deck. What I love about this is it feels alchemical almost. It has this, it's a collage deck, but it's so, to me, there's this level of intricacy and this level, like, I love this magician. Like, there's this level of intricacy, and it's very, like, this feels like such a it read very philosophical to me. It read like, I felt like I was reading Socrates and Jung and like all sorts of psychologists and philosophers, like grand philosophers. Like, this is a really intense deck for me. It's gentle but direct. Like, it's got this layer of like, it's delicate but not. It's definitely like very clear, but it's very much like it's like you're speaking to a philosopher. You have to really kind of like think. Like, when the messages come through, you have to really just like think. So that's the Spolia, and I worked with that deck. I worked with the Usi Supra, which paired up amazingly. I'm not going to go through that because I have the video that kind of goes through all of that. I also worked with my good old trusty Hanson Roberts, and I still, like, this is still the second deck I ever had. So I originally had a copy of the Hanson Roberts in 1990 or 1991, something like that. Like, that was the second deck I ever had, and the first deck that really I could truly shuffle. Like, it's the first deck I could really shuffle. It's playing card size, which is totally easy for me, but the first deck I ever owned was the Mythic, and the Mythic was a little too big for my hands, but I kind of know how to shuffle larger decks now. But the thing about the Hanson Roberts, and I always enjoy working with it, the thing about the Hanson Roberts is it always gives me really good sound, personal. It's always going to be about my personal world. So it's always going to give me readings that are very tied to what's going on within me, what's going on with my family, what's going on with me, and in my universe. So it's not really like a global collective kind of feel. It's more tied to my mundane world, my everyday world. So, but I needed, at that time that I used that deck, I needed to kind of find what path I was going to take. There was some some like, it's slow at work, a little nervousness, a little everything like that, just normal stuff. So it was very helpful for that to give me the sage advice to really like focus on my personal efforts and all of that. So it was really helpful. In tandem, I used the Hedgewick Botanical, and I have to say, like, the thing I love about this, and I really have to sink my teeth into this, but the guidebook for this is amazing. It's so full of knowledge, and the cards are gentle, and they are very, it's just really beautiful, and it worked really well with the Hanson Roberts. So this is another really good deck to learn with. I have to learn a little bit more because I haven't really been doing like botanical type decks that often, but I love them. So I need to to do a little more work with that deck, quite a bit. The following week, I worked with the New Wave Tarot, which is newly out of print. It's by Lastcraft Designs. Lastcraft Designs is putting out a new deck called the Rosebud Tarot, and I've been following that on Instagram, and I'm seriously loving it. But I still seriously love the New Wave Tarot, and I was able to get it before, like, right after they ran out of stock on their Etsy. I kind of hunted it down and got it. So this is the music I grew up with. Ian Curtis of Joy Division as the Hangman. But it's definitely a very, like, if you love new wave music, if you grew up in the 80s, or if you just love new wave and all that kind of music from the 80s, this is a really awesome deck. The only thing that I don't love about this deck is the little pamphlet. I can't even call it a little black book, because this is all you get. You do get to see who everybody is, which is awesome. So you get to know, like, if you're not as familiar with who some of these artists are, these musicians, you have a little reference guide, and you have the basic RWS keywords. But what I would have loved is to hear, like, okay, what, why those people, like, if you know the backstory of any of those artists, yeah, you would kind of know why. But it would have been nice to have just a little more of a guidebook. But I'm sure, like, with some of these decks, you don't get that much. I mean, it's still gorgeous. It's a really awesome deck. It's fun. And I would say this is really great for creative energy, which is another thing that I needed, in it was like mid-May. The week that I used the Rock and Roll Oracle by Math and Medium, and this is a really fun deck. And I would be so bold as to say that it's a modern take on a god or goddess deck. I mean, I would say that, like, a lot of people consider musicians rock gods or pop princesses and stuff like that. So I would say this kind of reads in that way. And it is a fun deck, but it's also it is really great reader. So if you like god and goddess oriented decks, like any kind of decks like that, I would say try this out for a fun modern twist on that kind of theme there. I had a lot of fun working with it, and I just love the artwork. I kind of hope that the artist does a second edition, because I feel like there's a lot more that could be expanded on this, but that's just me being greedy. But in the final week of May, I worked with this baby, the Everyday Enchantment, and it's funny, when it first arrived, I was like, oh boy. I mean, I love the book, but these cards are ginormous. They are huge. They have really big borders, like really big borders. And I really do like, after working with them, I don't mind the borders. I'm not one to chop off borders. So I'm not one of those, like, I don't really mod decks. I like having it, I like keeping the decks, as is. So, and actually I do enjoy the borders. I like that they're color coded. But what I love the most about this deck is it is so emotional. Like, it really it is a true modern day twist on the RWS. Like, it takes the meanings, and it's a very clear read. Very clear read. I mean, that's awesome. Um, it's a very clear read. And what I think, what I do, it's definitely like up there now and one of my favorite decks to work with, even though like it's still new to me, but it's a favorite now. What I love about it is it's in that vein of modern contemporary decks that kind of highlight everyday life. And this feels like, how light seers, if like when I did my decks through the ages, I was saying like the light seers reminded me of my 20s. This feels more like, when you're in your 30s and you're really grounded and you're really an adult. Like this really has that kind of feel of, everyday life for like being an adult. And the other thing that I appreciate, one thing that I love about this guidebook, and it's a very, very in-depth guidebook, she tells the story of, the places and the images and how she came up with the imagery. So it's really mindful in terms of like the backstory. And I love when guidebooks take me on that journey of like the full context and the behind the scenes look at it, because it just makes me bond with the deck a lot more than just like, here it is, here you go, have fun. The week that I worked with that, I worked with The Secret Language of Color. And I'm going to say straight up, if you are a snob about like, cardstock, this is probably one of the shittiest cardstocks ever. But it doesn't bother me because I'm not like, I buy the card for the design. I'm more of a sucker for design. So these are really, they're flimsy, but I love the design and it works so well with the everyday enchantment. It's like bold and everything. And it really enhanced the readings quite a bit. So I mean, I just really love these cards. Don't love the cardstock, but love the cards. And if you really don't like flimsy or very thin cardstock, don't buy it. But if you could get past it, get it because it's worth it and it reads well. So just giving you that perspective. The other thing that I did in, May, I almost said April. I participated in 2 challenges, and not doing that again. I'm not participating in more than one challenge again, because here's the thing. I challenged myself because somebody on one of the groups that I belong to was like, I'm doing 5 challenges this month. And I'm like, wow, I am working from home. I could totally do 2 challenges. If she could do 4 or 5, I could certainly do 2. And it fried. Like, it burnt me out to do 2 challenges in addition to daily practice. So for one of the challenges, for the Beltane challenge with from Lionhearts, I used the Hardy. And I really need to bond with this deck more. I love this deck, but I need to bond with it. I have not bonded with it. And I love the artwork. Like, this artwork is just amazing. I just really, really, I mean, check that strength. This is probably one of my all-time favorite strength cards. This is amazing. I love this deck. I love the design of this deck. I love the artwork of this deck. I love that they're thothy. It's kind of a hybrid deck, and I love that. But it just didn't. I think I was getting mixed messages from my other, like, the prompts for that challenge didn't resonate so well with me, which means it didn't really read well with me. So I have to just read with this deck in my own way that I usually do when I'm when I have a new deck that I've introduced into my collection. So didn't bond with me, but I feel a connection to it, and I definitely feel like it's gonna read well when have a one-on-one relationship with it. I feel like challenges are sometimes like a third party is interfering in some way. However, for the other challenge that I did, which was Bujo Witchcraft's, you know, Tarot for Growth, I used the Muse because, of course, I got this when there was another Hay House sale. So I got the Muse, and like I was not gonna get this deck. Was not gonna get it. Just was not gonna get this deck. But you know why I almost didn't get this deck? I almost didn't get this deck because it's too beautiful. If that makes any bit of sense. It's too pretty. It's too gorgeous. But oh my god, like this deck for self-help and for self-love deck. Ooh, this was so good because the prompts for that for this month on that were for May was about self-love, self-help, like self-love. This deck just had that energy. And it's probably like it's also great for creative work and everything like that. So it just was very gentle and loving. And yeah, this is definitely like the biggest surprise of the month because I didn't know what to expect with working with it, but it read so amazing. So that's it for my decks, but I'm not going to be doing 2 challenges again because I feel like it was a little much to kind of manage both and do everything together and everything like that. Yeah, so that's everything I worked with this past month. And it feels like May was forever ago. So I wanted to get this out because in another couple of weeks we'll have June, and I'm gonna have a lot to update on June. That's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, thanks. Bye.